Welcome to the Mind Body Business Show. The 3 keys to your success is just moments away. Here's your host, Brian Kelly.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Mind Body Business Show. So happy you could join us this evening. We have an amazing guest expert. Goes by the name of Kristian Meyer. You're going to love this gentleman. He's got so many things going on, and they're all good, and they all relate to each other. So it's okay to have more than one thing going on when they're like that. Like to always teach and preach, focus on one thing. That is exactly what he's doing, and repurposing it in several different ways, which is genius. And you'll find out in just a moment. Cannot wait to introduce you to this fine young man. And he's got a voice like a rock star. You're gonna love it. And speaking of rock star, the Mind Body Business Show. What is that about? It's about what I call the 3 pillars of success. And that's mind, which is mindset. When you have a rock solid, powerful mindset, then things just come easier. It is the foundation to all of your success, either in the business world and in personal life as well. And then body. What is that about? That is about taking care of yourself, both on the inside and out. And that is by eating the proper foods, drinking the proper liquids, and also exercising, moving on a regular basis. And then business. Business is multifaceted. That is marketing, sales, team building, systematizing, scaling, many other facets in business. And what I found over the course of my 54 years on this planet is when I started focusing on successful people, they always had those 3 patterns, those 3 pillars that made them successful. They had that rock solid mindset, they took care of themselves physically, and they had mastered the skill sets necessary in business. And for those that they didn't master personally, they got the help they needed and delegated that to those who did. And that's what this show is all about, is about helping you, the viewer, by bringing on incredible special guest experts, successful people like Kristian Meyer, to help you along 1 or 2 or even all 3 of these areas. It's an organically produced show. We don't really have anything rehearsed, and we just talk. It's 2 entrepreneurs talking, and just from doing this about 50 times in the past, each and every time, the value has been immense, so you want to stick with us. And on sticking around with things and going through and always putting in the effort, one of the most important things I learned at it's been about a decade ago, probably more than that. A mentor of mine told me some amazing advice. He gave me some incredible advice. Long time ago, I was in his office. It was back on the East Coast. He had me flown out, picked me up in a limo. I stayed a couple days there in his main office. I didn't stay in his office overnight. And we were discussing a contract deal. But at one point, I'm sitting on the couch, and he's looking at me, and he just says, Brian, if people only knew, if they just did this one thing, they'd all be super rich. And the whole story comes down to the answer is reading books, reading the right books. And so I was like, you got to be kidding me. That's it? That is the secret to getting rich, reading books. And I made a huge mistake at that moment, and I absolutely did not take heed of that advice at all. I didn't read for years after that. Thankfully, later on, I met and then became close friends with another mentor of mine. I ended up speaking from his stage, training his students for a couple of years, and learned a lot from him as well. And he also was a voracious reader and very successful. And I finally got that kick in the side of the head that finally says, Brian, wake up. So I began reading voraciously. And so what I want to do is really quickly segue into a quick segment I call appropriately bookmarks.
Bookmarks. Born to read. Bookmarks. Ready, steady, read. Bookmarks. Brought to you by reachyourpeaklibrary.com.
Yeah, Reach Your Peak Library. For those of you watching live, you can see that to the side next to me. What that is a website that I developed personally as a gift to you, the entrepreneur, the business person, the person looking to advance in their life. And so what this is a compilation of past books I personally read. I'm way behind. There's actually quite a few more. There's about 40 in this list right now. And so I'll just scroll down real quick. And what I wanted to do is make this available for anybody who's looking for books that they know have quality. At least one person, that's yours truly, has vetted these books. And so you're not just guessing, throwing a dart at a dartboard and hoping you hit a book that you're not going to be wasting your time on. And so I put these together so you could quickly find one or more or all of these books that are really going to help you as well in the areas of business and personal development. You name it, it's in there. And so that's my gift to you, because I now know and have been a voracious reader for years now. I now know the importance of reading. It is literally a life changer. But the problem is, it's not just reading. The lack of success isn't just the fact that you're not reading. It's just you're not reading the right books if you are reading. So this will give you a guide on getting started in that area. And, you know, I think we've blabbed enough, and it's time to bring on the special guest expert. Wouldn't you agree? Because you're going to love this guy, Kristian Meyer. So let's do that. Let's bring on Kristian Meyer, our special guest expert, right now. Here we go.
It's time for the guest expert spotlight. Savvy, skillful, professional, adept, trained, big league, qualified.
And there he is, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello?
Kristian Meyer. The one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend. He is here on our stage at the Mind Body Business Show. How you doing, Kristian? How are things going?
I'm good. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Oh, man, thank you so much. He's coming all the way to us from Reno, Nevada, which isn't very far from where I am in Southern California, but appreciate you being on and enduring the heat right along with us. And we've got a phenomenal show lined up. And right before I forget, Kristian, I hope you don't mind, I want to remind our listeners and our viewers, for those of you that stay on to the end during this live show, you're going to have the opportunity to win a 5-night stay at a 5-star resort in Mexico. And this is not one of those things where they bait and switch you and pull you in and give you a training session on timeshare. There is none of that goes on. 5 nights, 5-star Mexican resort, and that's put on by my good friends, our sponsor, Jason Nast and Rhonda of powertexting.com. So stay on to the end. We give away a vacation stay every single show, and I hope it's you. You're the winner, the one that's watching right now. I hope that's you.
I hope I'm the winner.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Kristian Meyer is a 21st century polymath. After stepping away from a successful marketing career where it was becoming increasingly apparent that corporations no longer valued loyalty, Kristian set out on a path of leadership and entrepreneurial spirit. Boy, I can so relate to that loyalty statement. Through this journey, Kristian founded a massively growing dog rescue nonprofit. This is very interesting. And then became an owner and vice president of sales and marketing for a niche CBD oil company, and hosts various podcasts through his entertainment network. Finally, let's hear this golden voice. Kristian Meyer, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. We're going to dive deep into a lot of that, and I appreciate that you put that together so we can get a quick understanding of what you're up to. What I like to do, and the way I like to open each show with my guests, is dig a little deeper, because successful people have these patterns and habits and routines, and they also have this mindset that gets them where they are. And so I'm always curious. Each and every individual is slightly different. We are, thankfully. And so what I like to ask is, like, in the morning, let's say when you're getting up out of bed, Kristian, and you're feeling a little groggy. If you're anything like me in the very beginning, you're still kind of coming to, your feet at the floor, you start to come to, and then you start, the awareness kicks in, it's like, another day. And then the drive starts kicking in, the motivation starts kicking in, and then you're like, yes, let's go. For you, what is that yes that gets you going in the morning?
Well, it's a couple different things. So when I get up in the morning, I always follow sort of the same routine. A little bit of background. At 23, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is a autoimmune disease. And so taking care of myself was a big part of that. And so when I get up in the morning, I do a little bit of yoga, a little bit of mindfulness, stretch the body out. I find that if I ever skip a day doing that, I pay for it much later, in the afternoon. And so that sort of starts things out, and it gives me a chance to sort of compose my thoughts on any number of topics. And then basically from there, my brain just sort of kicks in. And, I've always got something going on. As you mentioned, all of the different things that I'm involved with. It's a little bit of a juggling match. And so, part of the fun is trying to piece together my day and figure out, what takes priority, what needs to be done. And from there, how to go ahead and put that into action.
Fantastic. And on average, how long, I'm just a curious guy, so I ask these really crazy questions, but on average, about how long does it take you to get through a morning routine when you first get up and get going?
I spend about 45 minutes doing yoga, stretching, mindfulness, just to sort of set that tone for the day. At that point, then it depends on what's going on. Either I'll jump in the shower and get ready to go, or I head straight to the home office and boot up the computer and start my day from there.
Let her rip. Yes. So, and thank you for that candid answer, because I always ask that because I'm always curious myself, well, how long does one invest in their routine? And again, it's very personal. Everyone does what works for them. But the cool thing is most successful entrepreneurs such as yourself have a routine to begin with. Many that have not reached the, that level of success they're looking for, that's one of the reasons, is they have no morning or even evening routine. It doesn't matter when, really, as long as you embark on something that will reset your mind, get your body in tune and ready to go, and like you just said, plan out your day, whether that's in the morning when you get up or the night before or both. It really doesn't matter. It's whatever works for you. And that's cool, because that's another common pattern I've noticed in interviewing so many successful people like yourself, Kristian. So appreciate you just being candid and answering that, because that can be a personal thing if depending on what people do to get ready. So I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, routine is super important, especially when you have a lot of things going on, and there's people that depend on you. And in my case, dogs that depend on you. If you don't have that routine, then things fall through the cracks and lives are literally on the line.
And I'm glad you mentioned the dogs. Let's break into that a little bit. We were talking a little bit before the show started off camera, and it's really awesome what you're doing. And I would like to help get the word out about what you are doing, because it's an amazing service, if you will, that you are providing to the dog nation.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind, give a brief overview. It could be long, of what your whole nonprofit does, how it works, where the dogs come from, etc. Like you were telling me earlier. I thought that was very, very interesting.
Yeah. So the name of the organization is roughriders.org. And we are a nonprofit, and our main focus is pulling dogs from kill shelters in Southern California, Central California, Southern Nevada. We work with the rural shelters that are out here, and we transport them up, work with our own foster base, with the other rescues and shelter organizations here in the Reno area, and find them homes, give them a second chance at life.
So these are like dogs that are literally, a lot of them, on death row. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, these, the shelters there, they're so overcrowded that when a dog comes in, regardless of breed, temperament, whatever it may be, they're given a timeline. And at the end of that timeline, they are euthanized, for lack of a better term. And it's no fault of the shelters. It's just a product of overcrowding and large populations, and to some degree, ignorance and lack of education in spay and neuter and proper care for dogs, and understanding, how dogs function. And really, it's just a matter of bringing those into those areas, so that way, the population control can be brought down a little bit.
Yeah, so you're like a doggy distribution center is the way.
Yeah.
And that's awesome, because you're taking dogs from places that, there's just not enough people to go around to adopt these. And then you come and rescue them from places like LA and other areas and bring them to a location where they won't be euthanized and they will get a home.
Yeah, so where we're located is that perfect middle ground of available dogs and adoption and foster rates. And so education is great. But as you move further north into areas like Oregon and Washington and even Idaho, there's shelters there that don't have any dogs available for adoption. And so what we're trying to do is, like you said, basically distribute, that overpopulation, try to reduce the number of dogs that are put down.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. So if you don't mind my asking, what got you going down this path originally?
Basically, what it came down to is I had spent 17 years in automotive marketing down in Southern California. From where I lived to where I worked was 18 miles on the road. Took me 2.5 hours to get to work every day, 2.5 to 3 hours to get home, trying to spend time with my family. It just all became overwhelming. Every day was a little bit like Groundhog Day. You'd wake up, you'd get in the car, you'd sit in the car, work for 10 to 12 hours, get in the car, come back home, go to bed, rinse and repeat. And it took its toll. It caused some depression, and eventually decided, I need to take myself out of that situation. I moved back to the Reno area where the pace of life is a little bit slower, and took a long time to think of, what I wanted to do with my life. I was essentially starting over, and decided I really wanted to do something that was bigger than myself. Had always loved rescue dogs. We've got, 3 dogs of our own, and figured, that would be a great area to get into. It would keep me connected to that Southern California area. And through all of my marketing background and everything that I had experienced and been doing before, gave me that chance to apply that to something, I guess you could say, a industry that's somewhat become stale. If you're ever flipping through the channels and come across one of those Sarah McLachlan videos with, sad dogs cowering in cages, we took the complete opposite stance of that, really showing the joys and the benefit of rescue.
Fantastic. And I love the cause that is behind it. And we're going to, as I opened on the show, we're going to see how this fits into what else you're doing. I love how you've put this together. It's just, it's brilliant. And we'll go there in just a moment. So those of you watching and listening, stay with us. And by the way, when we mention resources like websites or books or things like that, stick with us. In other words, don't leave and go surfing while we're talking, because, the magic happens in the room, as they say. And if you leave, you might miss that one golden nugget that Kristian says that could have changed your life, your business life, your personal life. You never know. So just stay here and then take notes. Just take notes. Write down those website addresses, those book names. And on that note, Kristian, I'm assuming, maybe I shouldn't assume, but would you consider yourself to be an avid reader?
Like you, I didn't used to be. In high school, I loved reading. I read a lot. And then when I got out into the corporate world, figured freedom, I don't have to read anymore. And then at the point where I started changing things around in my life, I picked up reading again. And for me, I'm very equal parts left brain and right brain. And so I like to switch off between fiction and nonfiction. And it keeps things fluid and entertaining for me.
Definitely. And we were kind of talking about a book you're recently reading right before we came on the show. And just, if there are kids listening, cover your ears for the title. But if you don't mind, share what you're reading now and what golden nuggets, if you're far enough into it, that you've gotten from it so far.
Yeah, so the book we were talking about, which I finished a few weeks back, is a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And it's a really well-written book. The title doesn't exactly do it justice. It's not one of those things where it's like, the title is a full explanation of what it is. For lack of a better term, it's basically about reprioritizing the fucks that you give. And, they utilize that as a verb in the book quite a bit. And really, it's just about changing your mindset and not letting the small things get to you, and really taking advantage of the things that really should matter and do matter.
You know, I think that's actually on point because so many of us spend so much time in things that don't matter, that we're not prioritizing our time, doing things that really aren't doing us any good, nor those closest to us, that our loved ones, our friends, our colleagues. So even though the title seems a little racy, it sounds like there's some good juice, if you will, inside of that book that can be used to help people to really get out of that rut, if you will.
Definitely. Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that. I just want to give a quick warning shot before that came on. And I'm not like if words come out, they come out. It's all right. We're adults here. It's no big deal. Fantastic. So I wanted to move into what you've done with dogs, but now as a for-profit entity, and what you've done and how you're helping dogs and a business where you can actually monetize your work. If you don't mind, if you could briefly describe what that business is and what that is all about.
Yeah, so right after I started the dog rescue nonprofit, I had a gentleman reach out to me, local manufacturer of CBD products, and the company is called Seven Leaf Labs, and there's a couple product lines, but the main one is Seven Leaf Pets. And for me, as I mentioned, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. CBD specifically has changed a lot of my life and how I function day to day. I was telling Brian a little bit that previously I was on 4 medications twice a day, made me feel a little bit like a zombie, and I just didn't like the way it made me feel. And so in discovering CBD, it helped me reduce those numbers of medications. And the fact that, what we were doing with the dog rescue in relation to, the CBD products, and more information that comes out about the advantages of what they can do for dogs really piqued my interest. And then within the last few months, he approached me and asked if, based on my sales and marketing background, if I would take up the vice president of sales and marketing for the company and really help expand it and, revitalize and get it to a point where, it's making a difference nationwide.
That's truly phenomenal, and I love the connection between what your work with the dogs, your distributing of dogs to help them to basically stay alive, and now you're going down the path and have gone down the path of providing, what would you call them, supplements, or just health products?
For lack of a better term, nutraceutical supplements.
Okay. Nutraceutical supplements, fantastic. And so I am completely green in this area, no pun intended. And you were educating me right before the show because we were talking about the different types of benefits from CBD oil. Before we go deeper into that, does it matter where CBD oil is extracted / manufactured and how, as far as quality, or is that pretty much generic across the board?
So it does depend. There's different processes for extracting it. We do what's called a whole plant extract from the hemp plant. Now, a lot of people associate it with marijuana. Marijuana is the flower, that's the psychoactive portion of the plant, whereas CBD and the hemp oil comes from the stalk and the leaves of the plant itself. So based on how it's processed determines the purity of it. And then right now, it's a little bit of the Wild West in terms of CBD. And so the FDA is working on guidelines and regulations to make sure that manufacturing processes are regulated.
So I know you might be a little bit jaded when I ask this question. You might have an opinion, but where do you think you stand on the purity and the quality of the CBD oil?
Well, the nice thing is everything here is local. So, the supplier that we utilize to do the extraction, we know them personally, and we're able to test that and get that quality to where we want it to be. And then we mix that CBD with the different products that we offer, and utilizing, high quality carrier oils, which would be like coconut oil, for instance, for the drops that you take in.
Fantastic. I was just perusing the site a little bit there. And so what type of product are these? Ingestible for dogs and for cats, and I see horses as well? Or are they ingestible? Are they topical? Are they both? How do you get this into their system to help them?
Yeah, so the main product line for Seven Leaf Pets is the ingestible drops, and they're available in 3 different strengths, really based on 3 different sizes of animals. So we've got 150 milligrams CBD, 300 milligrams CBD, 600 milligrams CBD. And what we do is we feed it to the dogs however you can. Typically, we recommend putting it in their food or mix it in with a little chicken, beef, or vegetable broth. And based on their size and whatever the condition is, working with them a little bit to help alleviate whatever the situation might be.
So when you were actually asked to become the marketing guy for this company, did you have any? I mean, at that moment, was the concept to apply it to pets your concept, or was that something that they had already started down that path? I mean, how did that come to fruition?
No, so they had already started down that path, but for us and for me, I like working in areas that I fully support, that I stand behind. And we've got 3 dogs here at home. One of those dogs is a 4-year-old pitty. He's just fine. But we've got 2 dachshunds who are 14, getting up there in age. And our miniature dachshund, she's riddled with cancer. Her teeth are so bad that, if she needed to have surgery, she wouldn't, unfortunately, wake up from, the medicine that they put her under. And so we were looking for solutions to help her out, prolong her life, and give her the relief that she wanted. And everything that we researched turned to CBD, and so it just happened to be almost serendipity that they approached us, and then we started using it with her, and it's effective. She's probably prolonged her life maybe a year longer than she might have otherwise.
That's phenomenal. And who doesn't want to help another living being, prolong their life and be happier during that time that they're alive, to have a quality of life to go with it. And so,
yeah, absolutely.
Kudos to you for, championing first, the rescue, and that now coming over, and now you're able to help the pets with their health. And that's phenomenal. And then there was something else you did. You transitioned from pets, and then this other type of approach came into being, and it seemed to follow a certain pattern. And I know you know what I'm talking about. So
yep.
Where did your journey take you to next?
So Sergio, who's my business partner there at Seven Leaf Labs, originally approached me about Seven Leaf Pets, and then mentioned a product line that he was trying to get off the ground. And it was being met with a little resistance just because, CBD products tend to be a little more expensive than non-CBD products just because of the manufacturing costs. And where they were positioning it was for more of the tattoo line and those sorts of things. And so we spent a lot of time talking and realized through a lot of research that I did that there are no CBD health and skincare lines specifically for men. And so we decided to run with that and are rebranding and getting ready to relaunch what's called bootlegged products, and plays on that, prohibition era imagery. And we utilize names and products that are really for what we call the modern man. And so we've got a bay rum aftershave splash, which smells fantastic. And then for me, I tend to go a little too long between shaves, and when I do that, I get the red bumps, and I find that the healing factor in that helps out so much better compared to more of a traditional aftershave. We've got an after tattoo care, which helps with skin conditions, whether it's eczema, open wounds. And then we've got vape cartridges and oil as well that help the human side of things as far as calming anxiety, inflammation, which I mentioned. I utilize CBD for. There's been help in cancer patients, for instance, who they don't have the will to eat, but it helps build that appetite. And all of this is geared towards men. It's branded towards men. We're working on beard oils, lotions for guys who work with their hands quite a bit. And, the scents we utilize are a little bit more masculine. Everything else that's out there, they're either very clinical in their use or their scent, or they're very geared towards the feminine side. And, obviously if you're utilizing that, as a guy at the work site, you might get a little flack for it.
And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is a USP, a unique selling proposition. I love that. I mean, it's not only geared toward men, but the branding is also going after it has that undertone of tattooed men, which many are doing. So it has kind of like that well, I'll do it now, that badass kind of feel to it, even though it doesn't mean you have to have tattoos in order to take advantage of the products. It's a really cool brand, I think. Personally, I'm one person, but and the fact that you're going after specifically men, which is cool. It's good to see that happen, because it seems to be a rare commodity. I think it's increasing a bit of late, but that's good. I appreciate you for doing that. And so
I appreciate that.
So we're seeing this we wanted to talk about, or I wanted to pull it together. So we started with a rescue center, a rescue service for dogs. And then that transitioned into, or melded into, it didn't transition because you're still doing that, into utilizing CBD oil to help pets, dogs, cats, and horses. There might be more in that line. And then that went to the higher echelon of beings, being humans, to men
right.
specifically. And so it's so nice that you're saving lives on the beginning with the rescue. You're helping to prolong lives for those same wonderful creatures, and then you're also helping with men using the same, basically the same kind of products. And you were telling me some great stuff, and you've mentioned some of them on the show, but CBD oil, because again, I'm so green in this area. I was until you taught me, but you were talking about how it helps with anxiety, depression, and fibromyalgia, which is one of those mystery diagnoses. You never know what's going on. You just know that you hurt everywhere. At 23 too, bro, that is like, I've never heard anybody that young getting it. And you also mentioned it helps with sleeping as well.
It does. Yeah. And again, as we talked at, the beginning of the show, once my brain starts getting going, it's really hard to shut it off. And so I get there at night, and I'm laying down for bed, and my brain is coming up with new ideas and things that I need to take care of. And it's so hard to just shut it off. And so CBD, helps with the calming of that. And then the other thing for me is, I don't like to dream. I feel like if, I dream at night, that I was almost working all night instead of sleeping. And so based on, the different types of CBD, it helps reduce that dreaming, or at least I can't remember it in the morning.
So is there a specific product coming on your product line for that, for the sleep, that will help with that, like an adjustable for men?
We're looking at a couple different things there. The big thing actually on the animal side of things is in addition to the 3 different breed size oils that we're offering, we're also going to be having products that are infused with other known additives. So for instance, there's going to be a calming solution that has melatonin in it. Okay. We're coming up on 4th of July, and so many dogs have issues with fireworks. Yeah. And so a product like that really helps calm them and deal with, some of that anxiety. We're having one that is specifically geared towards pain and older dogs like ours that, deal with pain, deal with cancer. And we're using turmeric as an additive to that. And then we're going to be offering flavors as well. And so we'll have a bacon flavored for dogs and a salmon flavored for cats. And, as we expand with that, obviously going over to the human line, we're always taking a look at where we can really fit a need.
Yeah, I think the sleeping aid part of it would be phenomenal. I'm just like you. When you were talking, I was like, my God, you sound like me. I cannot turn it off. It just,
Yeah.
I will sit. Sometimes I'll be there in bed for 2 hours before finally it quiets down enough in my head. And it's just, sometimes it's been so many years that it's been going on like this. I just go with it and say, well, the worst case of all this is I'm resting anyway. I'm laying still. But that would be of deep interest to me. I've tried melatonin by itself, and it never touched me. I'm one of those people that supplements and often a lot of ailment cure things just don't touch me. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Maybe I just need to take half the bottle instead, but I won't go there. But something like this would help with sleeping. I would be all over it as a human consumer. So let me know when that comes out. Let the world know.
Yeah, most definitely. And it's worth trying just CBD in general for those types of things. As with anything else, everybody's different. Metabolisms are different. And what's good for the goose isn't good for the gander, so to speak. That, for some people, certain things work really well for them. Others, they don't. And so it's just a matter of finding out what works for you.
Fantastic. I truly appreciate you being open to discussing all this. I know it's just CBD has always just been this black hole to me. I really haven't gone into it, haven't really discussed it or analyzed it, anything. And I appreciate you. You're educating me, so odds are you're educating others who have never really dove into it. I knew where it came from, but I didn't know any of the details behind it. And like you already said, I think you said it on the show, that the drug part, the THC, is not in there. It's part of the flower, you said, right? And
so legally, based on the 2018 Farm Bill, any CBD products that are available for consumption have to have a 0.3% THC level or less. To give you an idea, your standard flower of marijuana has anywhere from 15 to 25%. So 0.3 is not enough to cause any psychoactive results.
Fantastic. Thank you for clearing that up. There might be some, I live in California. It's legal here now, but there are still those that, are like this, arms folded.
Yep.
Like that's just another way to get people introduced to marijuana, all the old schoolers. I don't look at it that way. I look at it with an open mind and say, if it helps people, if it's natural, if it doesn't have bad side effects and it does nothing but good, then, and there's no drug to it and it's legal, then do it. If for all those benefits you just talked about, anxiety, depression, fibromyalgia, sleeping, skin, all of it. Goodness sakes. So this is cool.
And the other thing that we're really working on right now is with both the Seven Leaf Pets website and the Bootleg Products website is being a resource and, debunking those myths and any questions people have, being that resource that people can come to, get information, follow the studies that are coming out on it. Because, obviously somebody can tell you something, but until you see it in black and white, it helps drive it home.
Fantastic. Yeah. It's like, you're just out to get a bunch of dogs high. Come on. We all know. No, I'm just kidding. So
there's easier and cheaper ways to do that than
So back to business talk. You have 3 successful organizations running. You have the Rescue, you have the dog CBD oil, or I keep saying dog, but pet. That's dog, cat, and horse. And then now you have men. And so going through all these, it must have been super easy, and you probably had 0 failures along the way. Is that true?
God, if that was true, then life would be so much easier.
And so I love to ask this question too, because this shows the human side, this shows the struggle side, and this shows that without failure, there is no success. So get over it and get failing fast. So for you, Kristian, if you can just highlight 1 or 2 that jump out. And, I don't look at them as honestly as quote unquote failures. They're just a learning moment that takes me to the next level. What have been some of your, let's call them setbacks. What have been some of your setbacks and what have you learned from them so that our audience can then know how to model a successful entrepreneur such as yourself?
So one of the sort of personal mantras that I live by is fail till you succeed. I've had a lot of things that I've done on the side. As I mentioned, I was in marketing for 17 years, but, one thing for me was never enough to keep my interest. So, I always kept things on the side and did any, number of things to keep myself motivated and busy. But, if I had stopped at whatever the first failure was, I'm not sure what I would do, because, failure is more of a learning process. So, the more you fail, the more you learn from those mistakes, the more you move forward. Most notably for myself was when I moved back to Reno, I had this brilliant idea of something I wanted to do, inspired by my kids. I've got a 6 and a 9-year-old. And I was going to open a indoor Nerf arena. And so a place where kids can go in, shoot Nerf guns. There'd be big inflatable barriers. We'd have parties, birthday parties, corporate events, team building, all of that. And, worked on getting that built up, got a location, started construction on the location, got financial backing, a community who was all about it. I mean, we were starting to line up birthday parties for when we finally opened. And as we went through this process, we hit a wall in the bureaucracy side of things. We went to the planning commission, and planning ultimately didn't end up approving our plans because of personal interests with a neighboring business. And we fought it. We took it to the city council. City council overturned it, but ultimately we had to go back to the planning commission to approve construction. And at that point, I think they felt scorned, and they started adding more and more and more that we needed to do. And it was at that point that we made the decision that we had to pull the plug. It was a large financial loss, and it was tough. I mean, it hit me really hard. But, after sitting back and realizing that, my life wasn't over, I moved on. And so, the next venture was, this dog rescue. And it turns out that that's probably what I was meant to do.
And so think that was a perfect way to close that, because it could have been that all of that was for a purpose. You went through that whole thing to then realize that, well, you know what, there's something else. It's the dog recovery. And I like that a lot more. And I can align with that more. So that process took you to what was your go-to thing, that one thing that your core competency resided in. I've been through a similar thing. I transitioned from a fitness business now to a training and education business, and it's just in my wheelhouse. I do automation training, and it's I love it. And I love fitness. I didn't love it as much as what I love doing now. Isn't that interesting?
Right. Yeah.
So Nerfery, I'm ready to write down the address as you're saying it, because I'm thinking, that sounds like fun. I want to go. I remember playing Nerf with my brother. We're playing basketball in the bedroom, knocking each other over and having a blast. And
we had more adults wanting to find out how they could set up parties than we did kids. And so we knew we were on something there, but ultimately it didn't work out. But I think I'm better off for it.
Yeah, and see, that's the beautiful thing about successful entrepreneurs. That was, at that moment, it was your baby, right?
Yeah.
And who's going to leave their baby? No one, ever. But you had the entrepreneurial maturity to say it's time to move on. And that's the thing, is if we treat any business of ours as if it were our baby, that's what happens. You hold on and you hold on and you hold on and you hold on too long, and you hold on to it all the way down to the end, and that's not good. And one of the greatest pieces of advice I was ever given, it was by my latest mentor, was when you build a company, in the very beginning, from day one, build it with the intent to sell it.
Yeah.
And so your mindset is completely different. It's not your baby in that sense. You put everything you have into it, you're passionate about it, but when it's time to leave, you've already prepared yourself more than just on paper and physically, but in your mind, it's okay, it's time to step away.
Yeah,
Whether
absolutely.
you sell it or not, but go through with that intent, and then you are now detached from that emotional drag that can and does pull so many people under with it. It's very sad, but thankfully you you basically saw the light and said, yeah, but over here, I can do this. It's time to do that. And sometimes that decision can be difficult, and I'm sure it was for you with all the investment you had. But looking back now, can you say that was the right decision?
Absolutely. And yeah, you have to give yourself a grieving period. I had a couple months where I felt sorry for myself, and I was a victim of something that was beyond me. And at some point I just had to realize that I need to move on. I need to stop worrying about the past and look towards the future.
It's so cool. We have parallel lives, my brother, because I went through a little I never called it a grieving period, but that was kind of perfect. And I was fitness. I was in fitness as a personal trainer. Long story, I did it for 7 years. But the moment I made the decision, I was actually elated and excited for what was ahead. But at the same time, you can't help but think of the 7 years of building and all that nurturing. And my morning period was, it came by way of eating junk to the point where I started gaining some unnecessary flab, and I said, all right, I'm back. I gotta right this ship and get back into shape. And it doesn't matter if I own a business that's in fitness or not. It's about taking care of yourself. But that morning period hit, and I'm like, wow, I've never eaten this stuff. In 7 years, I haven't eaten this junk, and now I'm eating it. It's like, what is wrong with me? I gotta get out of this, snap out of it. So it's very similar. This is very cool. And so along the line of success and failure, three businesses. It's truly three businesses. One's an organization, right? But it's still, you're running three businesses.
Yeah.
And so with that, certain things at times have to be put on the back burner. Like, you got to concentrate on the business or it will not survive. And so in that time, what are some of the key sacrifices, if you will, that you can think of that you've had to make to get to that point of being a successful entrepreneur?
Well, the biggest thing, especially getting into the nonprofit sector, is, unless you've been established for years and you're the Susan G. Komen Foundation, it doesn't bring a whole lot of money in. It's pounding the pavement and essentially begging for money and going out and getting grants and all of that. So, as I mentioned, in the marketing world, I had worked for companies like Mercedes-Benz and Lexus and was driving really nice cars, $50,000, $60,000 cars. And when I shifted my whole life to this pursuit, I had to do away with some of those nicer things. I drive a very modest car right now. I keep my food budgets down. I keep clothing budgets down. I used to go to concerts all the time. Now I do it when I can afford it. And a lot of people wouldn't want to make those sacrifices, but I find that the joy and the fulfillment in the work that I'm doing outweighs, the financial gains in the short term. Obviously, as we continue to build, the hope is to get to that Susan G. Komen level and be nationally recognized. And obviously, the more money we make, the more we do, the more dogs we save.
And I have every reason to believe you're going to achieve that which you're setting out to achieve. And that's because you're coming from the heart space, the serving space. So many are, I know some, but so many are in for the quick kill to get in, get the big payday. And they don't think they want to get in and then get out, but that's what always happens because of the way they go about their business. They go in with a scarcity mindset. You, on the other hand, have the abundance mindset because, look, I love how you framed that, where you say that, money isn't really what drives me. I've just felt I was doing the right thing, and that this is what fueled me. And, we don't need all of those material things, do we? Do we want them? Are they nice? Sure. But you don't need them. And in your case, what you were doing outweighed the importance of what things you had at that time. And the goal still is to get back up there, and I get that. And that's why I think you are going to with help. That's one of the keys I found is getting help. Getting employees, partners, things that people, funding, whatever the case may be, marketing help. And that's what makes success happen, is getting out of that ego and saying, I need help. You got 3 businesses. I know you've had help. So we're not questioning that here with you at all.
Right.
But
And really, when it comes to help, and one of the things I found when I got into this animal welfare space is that so many rescues and shelters were very siloed. This is us. This is what we do. We don't want any help. You do your own thing. And we made a really conscious effort to network and work with as many different people and rescues and shelters that we can. And it's not that quid pro quo. I kind of take it a little bit further in, what can I do for you above and beyond, in that maybe down the road you'll see the value and you're willing to help us out. And by creating those connections and those networks, in the 1 year, we just celebrated our 1 year anniversary. We've grown by leaps and bounds. Social media wise, we've got nearly 10,000 followers. We've saved nearly 100 dogs from euthanasia.
Wow.
And our foster base and volunteer base is growing exponentially.
Fantastic. And, that will easily and effortlessly spill over, I believe, into your 7 leaf?
7-leaf labs.
7-leaf. I got it finally. I was talking to Kristian before the show, and I said, "Wait a minute, 7-leaf. I get it. That's how many leaves are on a marijuana plant. Is that correct?" And he said, "Yeah, that's right." I said, "Oh, okay." I'm acting like I'm all this super good boy and all that I don't. I never counted leaves, but it hit me. It's like, oh, I get it now. That's what that's all about.
Well, the funniest thing is, it's that perception that, you're going to go, meet these folks. And, when we're out there that, it's going to be the Bob Marley crowd and all of that. And it's really not. It's, it's corporate America. It's the baby boomers, people who are seeing the benefits of it, aren't afraid of the stigma that's behind it, because the benefits outweigh the downfall.
Yeah, absolutely. There's one question that I'm so glad that we have time for it, because we're getting toward that time, which happens every single show. So appreciate once again coming on, Kristian. It's been a blast, and we're not done yet. And I appreciate everyone who's coming on to watch live, and all of you that are watching after the recording's over and on podcasts. We're on 15. Is that backwards? 15. I don't know which way. Podcasting platforms. And this is live streaming currently to 10 platforms simultaneously. The intent of this show is to get the word out about people like Kristian and what they're doing, because he's making a difference. 100 dogs. They have saved the lives of 100 dogs. That's phenomenal. And they're also helping prolong their life and give them a pain-free life, or at least less pain, through his for-profit 7-Leaf Labs. And then now he's also helping men, which I think is phenomenal. So if we take it to either the 7-Leaf Labs or the men, what have you found to be, so marketing is multifaceted. We all know that. It's like, there are so many ways to market. It's unbelievable. And that's why I love it, because the variety is immense, and you never do really master all of it. There's no way. There wouldn't be enough time. But for you, what has been one of your most successful forms of marketing to date on either one of those for-profit companies?
So marketing is sort of twofold for me. Long ago were the days of print and newspaper advertising. That doesn't hold a candle to the two areas that we like to do. One is getting out there and doing local outreach, meeting with people, answering questions. We're working on putting town halls together for people to come in and ask questions about CBD, debunk the myths, show them the benefits, show them how to use it, and really sort of simplify the whole idea of what's going on. On the opposite side of that is digital. Social media is hugely impactful. It's a great way to reach a lot of people in one fell swoop. And so, we utilize Facebook and Instagram, a little bit of Twitter, but not a whole lot. And then I've always been a fan of the audio visual mediums. And so, just like this, I host a number of podcasts. We do a local radio show here on Wednesdays through the terrestrial radio. And really anything you can do to to reach as many people as possible. And, of course, when you do that, you have to give them the attention back when they are asking those questions. You can't just ghost them and hope that they will continue to be customers.
I love it. Yeah, and my goodness, I'm telling you, you're another one that was separated at birth from me. Like you're just a brother by another mother, and probably another time. I think I've got a few years on you, just a few,
just a couple, yeah.
But goodness sakes, man. That is amazing. I love how you talked about marketing, and the one that stuck out to me was the local outreach and actually going out and being amongst the people physically instead of just sitting behind a computer and blasting out social media, which is important as well. But just recently I did just that. I went out. I hadn't been to an event, an entrepreneur event, in months. And I just went through that transition we were talking about, fitness to education. And in this one event, it was a one day, it was a phenomenal event held by two prominent women. In the breaks and things, people would ask me what I did, and I told them this show. And I said, I interview entrepreneurs, and who's in this room? It's all entrepreneurs. And as I'm talking, there's like groups of people, right? There's never just one, there's always a huddle. And I'm talking to one individual, usually a young lady, and she's asking me, and I'm assessing her to see if she has the success level I'm looking for to bring on the show, because I want people like you to help by giving this great advice. And I'm thinking, okay, this one's a fit. And as I'm telling her what I do, the other two are throwing their cards in front of my face. I want on too. And I'm like, hey, this is actually, okay, this is nice. And so if I hadn't gone out, this wouldn't have happened. I ended up landing 6 more guest experts to come on the show in just, one afternoon of, I don't call it work, it was fun.
Yeah.
And so it's so imperative that we just continue to show up, is what I like to say, like physically. I still won't go to as many events as I did in the past. I used to go to a lot, but now I've made a bunch of connections. It's time to now, take it to the next level in other avenues, and still go to an event here and there. I'd rather be on stage speaking, but if that doesn't come to fruition, I go to events only if I have an outcome for that event. I'm just preaching to folks right now to let them know that have an outcome for that event. What do you want to do? Mine was to get one of the main speakers to come on my show. The other of the two had already been on my show. And so that became a done deal by just setting that outcome. And then I got 5 others to boot. It was awesome. So thank you for saying that about local outreach. That's powerful. And then
it's important.
Yeah. And then social media. So you're doing everything very similar in concept to what I call carpet bomb marketing. And I've come up with that term, and I've got a website for it. I'm putting together an entire training behind it on how to do it from a live show like this all the way down to what you're saying, social media, repurposing on the podcast, everything, the whole 9 yards. I haven't done terrestrial, though. That one got my attention there. But great stuff, Kristian. My goodness. Okay, there's one more question before we go. We're at that bewitching hour already. That's the good thing. I'm not beholden to a station or their timeline. We can go over a little bit, if that's okay with you. A few minutes.
I got time.
All right, cool. So we're going to go another 2.5 hours. Is that good?
Hey, I could talk forever.
And everyone would love hearing that deep golden voice of yours, that's for sure.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this, I want to ask you, I love to close out with one question that is, it's interesting because it's personal. And it can be deep. It just depends on the person being asked the question and their reaction to it. But before we do that, real quick, I promised everyone that was watching live that they would have the means for winning a wonderful 5-night stay at a 5-star luxury resort in Mexico. And I'm going to bring that up right now on the screen so you can see that. And right now, the best way to do it is through the second option you see on the screen. So get out your phone. You now have my permission to take your glance away from the screen. Well, you'll need to type it in, but punch in the phone number 661-535-1624, and then type the message, or the word peak in the message area, PEAK, and just hit send. So again, that's 661-535-1624, and then type in the message peak, and hit send. The website above, there might be a glitch with the opt-in form on that page. We're working on that. So go ahead and use your phone and text it. That way we'll definitely get through. And that text is, by the way, coming through using powertexting.com's amazing technology. They not only sponsor it, but I use their services every single show, not just for this. I also use it to announce the shows coming up to our entire database. It's a phenomenal service. So go ahead. You have my permission. Do that right now. Get done. And I will have the team pick a winner. It's a random drawing, and we'll see who wins, and you'll get notified back at you via text as well on how to claim your 5-night stay at a 5-star Mexican resort. It's awesome. All right, Kristian. Now that you've had time to sweat it out, get the bullets going, and wondering what the heck this question is going to be, just to help you out a little bit, the cool thing about this question is there is absolutely no such thing as a wrong answer. It's impossible.
I'm sure I could come up with one.
Well, the thing is, the only correct answer is your answer because it's you. And so it is impossible. So whatever answer, even if you were joking about it, well, it's not a wrong answer. It was yours. And so I say that so that you know that it's very unique to each individual. And I know that because of all the past guest experts that I've asked this same question, no two have answered it exactly the same way. It's blowing my mind in a good way. I imagine that at some point there will be crossover. Maybe this is that night. I don't know. Maybe there'll be one that answered it in similar fashion. But are you ready to go for this?
I'm ready.
All right. Fantastic. Kristian Meyer, how do you define success?
I define success as doing something that is bigger than myself. It's making a world that's a little bit better for other people than just me. And if I can see the fruits of those labors, if I can have people come up to me that express that, I've done something to help them or change their lives, that's success for me.
And true to form, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's actually good news. No one else has answered it that way.
Good,
this is amazing. So I'm serious. I'm going to compile or put a book together and compile all of these answers and make that up into a book because it is so. It's amazing to be on this side of the on this side of you as the host because of the people like you that I get to meet, get to know. You guys are all brilliant. You're genius, including yourself with the 3 businesses, the way you've just stacked those, which is phenomenal. And here's the thing, what I loved about your answer and all the ones that preceded you, there is one thing that's common, actually. And that is not a single one. And again, recognize that I am talking to successful entrepreneurs. That's a key here. They are successful. Every single one, there isn't one of them that said that their answer was never, well, when I make my first X million dollars. It was never money-centric. Some had money in there later in their description, but the primary reason was always, the undertowing reason was always to help and serve others, just as yours was. You didn't say it the same way, not even close to others. You're doing something bigger than myself. I'm like, wow, right off the bat, I'm like, all right, he just scored, he did it different, making the world better, more than just for me. And that's what is called a serving and giving heart. And that is what makes successful entrepreneurs successful, more sustainable success. Let me put it that way. Can people be successful without serving and giving? Yes, many have. We know some of them. Typically, that's a shorter term of success because they get called out and their businesses spiral and tank. Some, unfortunately, thrive to the end. But for the most part, the people that I have on this show are those that are serve first mentality, just like you, Kristian, and that's why I appreciate you coming on so very much. Oh, and by the way, Kristian has actually a gift or a prize to give away. Let's see, that was on the bootlegged products page, if memory serves correctly. So would you mind giving a quick description of what that prize is and how folks can get it?
Yeah, so one lucky winner, if you go on to our Instagram page at Bootleg Products and type in the hashtag Mind Body Business. And in the next 7 days, we'll pick one winner who will get what we're calling our Bootleg Products Men's Health Gift Pack. And that includes 2-ounce oil drops, healing lotion, aftershave splash, and we'll probably throw in a few other goodies for you as well. If you don't win, we have a special promo code. So on both bootlegproducts.com and sevenleafpets.com, we're offering any Mind Body Business listener 15% off just using the promo code Mind Body Business. Uh-oh. I don't know if you muted, but I can't hear you anymore.
Oopsie. There we go.
There you are. There you are.
Yeah, I was curious on Instagram, what is the actual account that they're looking for? Is it Bootleg Products? Is it your name?
It's at Bootleg Products.
Gotcha. So Bootlegged Products. So it's at and then Bootlegged, BOOTLEGGED Products, PRODUCTS. So go to Instagram and follow his instructions. This is a recorded show, so if you need to hear that again, come back and play it. Just fast forward to the end and say, I want some of that. I'll get me some CBD oil. Let's do this. I'm in on that. I hope I get to be part of the fray of winning. I'll do the same. You can enter to win that vacation as well, Kristian.
Sounds like a fair trade to me.
All right. Fantastic. Well, thank you once again. And before we completely wrap this up, very important, is what is the best way for folks to connect with you on a personal basis? How can they get in touch with you? What's your favorite mode of connectivity?
I wish I had an easy answer for that. Right now, everything has its own little separate silo. But in an effort to fix that, I'm getting ready to launch a podcast and a portal that encompasses everything that I'm involved with. And it's a term that I mentioned earlier. The website's going to be biggerthanmyself.media. And we'll have a podcast and, just talking about social entrepreneurship and, again, how you can get involved in any of the things that we currently have our toe in.
I love it. In the interim, would it be okay for them to hunt you down on Facebook and send you a message?
Yeah. So Rough Riders on Facebook, Rough Riders Saves, 7-Leaf Pet CBD, or Bootleg Products CBD, all on Facebook. Got it.
Beautiful. So there's no excuse for people not to get in contact with Kristian Meyer because he just gave about 50 of them. And so, I'm just kidding.
I'm very easy to reach.
Yes. And you can tell he probably won't take your call or respond to you. He doesn't seem that nice. I'm kidding, of course, being very sarcastic here. Super individual you are, Kristian. I appreciate you for everything you're doing. Thank you for coming on and sharing immense value with my tribe, with those that watch the Mind Body Business Show. Watch for this show on multiple platforms, including 15 podcast platforms. We're also on Roku and Amazon Fire TV under the channel name of Mind Body Business. So go ahead, get those channels locked into your devices and come and watch some past episodes as well, including this one, and enjoy those because there's nothing but value. You cannot pay enough money to get the value you get from this show by itself. This is like going to a seminar where you would pay multiple tens of thousands of dollars for the information that comes through each and every show. I kid you not. I've been to many seminars, I know. So once again, Kristian, I appreciate you. We're going to sign off, and I want to thank again everybody watching and listening out there, and we'll see you next edition of the Mind Body Business Show coming up really, really soon. That's it for now. Have a great, great evening all, and be blessed. We'll see you later.
Thank you for watching and listening. This has been the Mind Body Business Show with Brian Kelly.